big one. I was excited. Great time.
Do you know how's it going in the XFL so far compared to NFL and college and stuff? What's the atmosphere like and just like the level of play and everything?
I would say, I don't know. I think it's above college, obviously, but I think it's a chance for the difference is just more of like, I wouldn't say a D League, but it's like, like you get the objective for me is to get film and go back to the NFL. That's my goal.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of people's goals here because the pay is a little bit better and it's more recognizable and et cetera, and the benefits. But XFL is a great league though. I love it. It's a lot more, it's more fun. Like they had alcohol in the locker room after the game, which I was like, confused by, but
yeah,
it was kind of, it's cool. It's interesting to say the least. It's fun. Like all the new rules and stuff. And I think that's huge, to be honest. It separates us from the NFL a little bit.
Yeah. Are athletes like pretty open in the XFL, but wanting to go back to the NFL or like what their goals are in the XFL?
So they, they want, I would say a lot of people want to get back to the NFL. Like this isn't a complete landing spot. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like everyone wants to move up to the NFL. Like that's the goal for everyone here.
Right.
Everyone says that. So.
What was kind of your thought process on like getting to the XFL from the NFL? Like when did you start thinking about it? Was it right when it like was first announced, or did you take some time for you to warm up to the idea?
For the XFL?
Yeah.
I would say like at first I was a little hesitant because of the AAF and how that crashed and stuff like that. And I had a couple of buddies who were in that league and they got messed over a little bit because of the whole not getting paid for a couple of weeks and then the season folding out random. But I think this league is more sustainable. And I think once I got cut from Tampa Bay when I was there, I was just working out at home, waiting for another call or a workout for me to see if I could show these people how to do it and that I can move and I can be a developmental guy. Like you can develop me into a great player.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
what was, sorry.
I was gonna say, no, you're good. I was gonna say, so my agent and a bunch of people recommended me like, yo, you should do the XFL. If you do well there, then you can get back to the NFL. Mm-hmm. So that's what my reasoning was. I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I know you kind of talked about like getting cut from the NFL and then that's kind of what springboarded the XFL. After you got cut, what was kind of like your mindset afterwards? Like, were you like thinking about if football was ever going to be a future for you or were you just kind of looking at the next challenge ahead?
I had mixed feelings. Like I had both a feeling of like, well, this might be it. And I've also had like, as soon as my agent called me, I said like, hey, like, what's the next move? Like, what are we going to do? Like, I want to get to going though. Like, I was discouraged at first, but then I was like, once I was packing my stuff up in Florida, I was like, you know what? I can still do this. I'm not, I don't know what happened. I just had a bad camp. And so like, I think I could definitely get back involved.
Yeah.
So that's why I like tried to really like set that mindset and like a goal, like set goals and what I have to do in order to get back to the NFL and my goals for the XFL.
Yeah, I know you had a pretty good career, in the at Temple as an O lineman, which kind of allowed you to go to the NFL for a bit and then the XFL. But I know being an O lineman wasn't plan A, I guess, for you. I know you started off as a tight end in high school and in college. How did that kind of come about from transitioning to tight end to O line? Because I don't think a lot of people really take that route.
There's a couple of people who have like they're not like for example, Russell Okung.
Right.
He was a tight end in college who went to tackle in the NFL. I mean, obviously I'm not Russell Okung, but like 6'8" freak. But like I think that like it came about. They wanted me to keep putting on weight to get to a tight end spot, right? And then once I got to like my tight end weight, they're like, okay, we want you to put a little bit more on. We want you to be this big blocking tight end. And I was like, okay, cool. So then I went from 220, 245, 260. My redshirt junior, I was 272. And then my head coach left, Matt Rule. He went to Baylor. Mm-hmm. So he got the job there. So we got a new coaching staff and they ran a completely different offense. They didn't run the pro. Like they ran like the spread and a little bit of that. And so I asked them, I said, well, what do you want me to do? I'm in between right now.
Right.
Like, should I be a tight end or should I be a tackle? And they're like, like, just keep eating. We'll see what goes. And then I'm like, at one point I was just like, all right, like I got to make this transition. Like I know they're not going to have a big blocking tight end in a spread offense. So I was like, whatever's best. And they needed a tackle. So I was like, I'll do whatever's best for the team. So I put on 25 pounds for my, for next season. I was 295 at my first game versus Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And, from there I put on, I played around 290-ish, and then during the season, and then pro day I was 300, and then now I'm 305, 306 right now. So
that's got to be pretty much every athlete's dream to, being told just go eat as much as you can. We want you to put on weight, right?
It is, but it isn't. I've gotten a lot of people say like, "Oh, dude, you're so lucky." You're like, no. When you have to really put it on, when it gets hard, or like it's at first, it's very hard to put on. Right. As me, I have a very fast metabolism. If I miss a meal, I miss 4 pounds, like off the rip.
Yeah.
And that's just my body metabolism. I'm not supposed to be 306 pounds. I'm supposed to be 240 pounds, 250 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they like for eating, it's really disciplined eating. Like you have to make sure you hit every meal, every smoothie, every shake. I would eat 10,000 calories a day. It'd be unreal. And I finally, like, that's when I started doing that and getting the shakes and stuff like that. I put on all my weight, and then it started coming on, and I put it on the good way and not the bad way. That's why I'm not as bloated as a lot of linemen are.
Yeah. Cause I think a lot of people, when they are told they got to gain 20, 30 or whatever, 50 pounds, they always just go like to the junk food right away. Right. Those are like the easy pounds to put on.
The pizza, the beer, and stuff like that. And I've heard it all. I mean, you can have that stuff, but you have to have it within, every once in a while you can mix it in. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Because you need it.
Yeah. And I think offensive linemen, like the people, they look at their height and their weight, and maybe they make assumptions on maybe how physical or like athletic they can actually need to be. But I think they're really underestimated on just the athleticism that's involved in the position. Cause like the pulls and swings you're doing as an O-lineman, especially as a tackle, is just unreal.
Pulls, swings, pass sets. Like I'm potentially going backwards to stop someone from running at me forwards. Right. Which is kind of wild to think about. I'm still getting the position down because I'm still fairly new to the position. Unlike a lot of people like alignment at my age. So, I mean, it's interesting to say the least, and it takes a lot of athleticism to actually do what I do, which is surprising.
Did you kind of have any pushback or hesitation at the beginning when you did your position switch? Because offensive linemen, they don't really, catch a lot of touchdowns, obviously, maybe here and there in a trick play. But as a tight end, there's more of opportunity to kind of have more media exposure or more hype around you, I guess.
Yeah. So I would say I actually was more hesitant when I was like 250, 260 to keep putting more weight on. And I was like, I was still a tight end. I was like, I should be kind of good here. And they're like, no. If you want to play, you have to put more weight on. So I was like, okay, like, well, I'll do you're the coach. You know what's best. Matt Rule, great coach. He's the Carolina Panthers coach now. Like he knows what he's doing. He's been around the block. He knows everything. So I trusted him. I was like, yeah. And then, he essentially got me an opportunity to play in the NFL. So I'm appreciative of that. And, I know it's not the end for my NFL career. I know at some point I can get back there.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of the going to the NFL and stuff. I know that you had a pro day as well with part of Temple. What was that kind of experience like? And maybe talk a bit about kind of maybe some of the nerves that you maybe felt beforehand and how you overcame them, or maybe some people you reached out to help you kind of get prepared mentally for the pro day.
So I first reached out to a couple old players who are in the league now. Deion Dawkins, who's the left tackle for the Bills. I play with him, and I'm like, how do you go about this? Like, how's everything go? He's just like, listen, dude, like, just take it one day at a time. Like, as you're training, like, take it one day at a time, get better in the weight room, get your speed right every day. Like, just work on it as much as you can. The pro day aspect, going into pro day, I had plantar fasciitis in my heel.
Yeah.
And my physical therapist down in Temple, the guy who does the physical therapy for Temple, Joel Roth, great guy. You know, we call him the Magic Man because he heals everything. Like it's an insane rate. Like
right.
A plantar fasciitis and like your heel and your arch is supposed to last you like 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Like the pain that goes into your foot, I believe, from what I've heard. He got it down in 3. So wow. I was like pretty hyped about that. And it would still bother me. Like it doesn't bother me anymore, obviously, but like during the pro day, I was like just making sure I kept it moving. But most of the time I was pretty good. And for that sense. And then when you got into pro day, a couple of nights before the pro day, or the night or two before the pro day, I asked my family, I asked my 2 brothers and my mom, I said, pick your favorite songs. And I want just them and I'm going to make a playlist. I just want you to give me the songs. Give me 1-2 songs. Right.
Yeah.
And so I had a playlist on my phone. So I knew like when I was going through it, like, you know what I mean? Or whatever like that. Like if I knew I had to prepare like on the way to doing my pro day, walking up and, you know, warming up and stuff like that. I just had the music playing in my head. You know what I mean? I had my headphones on. I was just like, you know what? Like I'm doing, I get to remind me, like I'm doing it for them. Like I'm doing this for my family. And that's one of the things that got me through pro day. And it's a scary, nerve-wracking thing pro day is because all the scouts are watching. And if you mess up one thing, it could be a projection between getting drafted or not. Yeah. So, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. Messing up is like, you know, obviously no football player is perfect. I think messing up is inevitable in a game. And especially as offensive linemen, kind of the mistakes that you make are probably put on more of a spotlight than others because it might lead to a QB sack or a tackle for loss or something. Right. So when you find yourself, you know, maybe making a mistake here and there, what's one way that you kind of like reset your mind so that you're kind of just, you know, picking back up where you left off kind of thing, the next play, and you're not getting to that downward spiral?
So the way I look about it, and I learned this at Temple, and this has just been drilled in my brain from Matt Rule and that staff, and it's just our mentality at Temple. It's just, you know, next play, like what's next? What's the next thing we got to do? Like we got to do this, we got to do that. Like, don't worry about, you know, like the thing that happened in the past. All the coaches preach it now too, like around me too, like with DC, like they preach, forget it. Like if you messed up in the last play, forget about it. You can't do anything to affect that now. Like now, today, you got to work on that play next. Like 65 plays. One play can't mess you up the whole game. You have to just keep going the next play. Just think about the next play, not the last play. Because the last play, if you think about the last play, you can't do anything about it anyway.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. So, like I said, I mean, just next play. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. And I got to imagine that, you know, the kind of team chemistry you have has got to play a bit of a factor in that as well, where you have guys around you that are just, you know, there as a team and they're there to support you during your low times, kind of makes it that much easier to bounce back rather than, you know, either whether it's a team where there's not such good chemistry going on, or, you know, different sports where you're kind of by yourself. You don't have that team there to kind of pick you up when you're down.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's always someone on the team you can lean on, or like everyone for our team at DC. Like, I think we're a pretty knit group. Like the chemistry's there. Everybody's good people. Like we try to like, everyone's like, hey, pick each other up. Like all the confidence in the world's there. Like, it's great. Like the energy's there. Like we're doing really well right now. And
yeah,
I lead, for example, for me, like I have, my right guard. I'm the right tackle. He's the right guard, Malcolm Bunch. And like, if I need to go talk to him, like, whether it's just like anything, like if it's me, I have a family problem, or like he has to come to me, like, you know what I mean? Like, or spiritually, if I need to go do that, like with him, like he's very good. And like, you know, we rely on each other on the right side, you know what I mean? Like, and he's very open, very personable guy. So I think if you could find that one person on that team, if it's not just your position group or the team in general, to have one person you can lean on to help you, and they can lean on you if you need something, if they need something. Like, I think that's huge. You can definitely do that.
Does it ever get in the way of like people, like the players on the team? They're all, of course, you know, the goal of many of them is to get back to the NFL. And so there might be a little bit more competition involved for playing time and exposure and stuff to get that film, right? And to show your talent. Does that ever get in the way in the locker room, or are guys generally kind of in it for the team, I guess?
I think for the most part, they're in it for the team. There is small, like everyone has a small piece of them is like, okay, like no offense, but it's for me. Like I need to do this. I need to get back. me personally need to get back. But I know that if we do well as a team, and I think a lot of people realize this, is that if we do well as a team and we collectively do well, we ourselves, the team, the NFL will look at that and be like, okay, like what was the reason why they were so good? And that's why people get picked. Well, we get picked up after the season because of that. I think if we continue to keep doing well.
Yeah. I know kind of a lot of the things we touched on already, I guess, about the mindset of an athlete has kind of been like the lower end of it, like when things aren't going so well. But I think there's, when you look at the mindset of an athlete, there's something that's, you're too low, your mood, or you could be even too high at some point. You kind of have to get a middle ground. How did you kind of deal with, when you started getting more and more success and more people, hyping you up and talking about you? How did you yourself kind of stay grounded in the situation so that, you didn't let the media or the fans or the big games kind of take over yourself?
Yeah, it's like I said, like if you have a person to lean on, the people who you lean on know you, and they make sure the highs are not too high for us and the lows are not too low. Mm-hmm. So like, for example, like the guard who plays next to me, Bunch, like he knows like, we're all doing well, but he makes sure everyone's in line, everyone's good. Like, you know what I mean? Like everyone, hey, like, listen, that was good, but we need to get better. Like we go back and film and our coach like knows and tells us too, hey, that was a good job. We won. Great. But we need to do better. Your technique needs to be better here and here and here. And that's what really kind of keeps you. It's a great job. You won. It's a 24-hour celebration. Great. You won. But now you get back into it. You need to know, hey, that was it. Great. We won that game. On to the next game. On to LA. That's my next thing.
Yeah. I know that they always kind of talk about like Super Bowl hangovers and stuff, but it kind of seems like more recently that it's the team that loses in the Super Bowl doesn't do so hot like the next year, like the Rams, for example, where they go to the Super Bowl last year and hard to bounce back like that. And same with the Falcons and stuff. And it really seems like football, you put so much time and blood and sweat and tears and everything into it that when you get into those final stages of the season and you lose a game, it's I think it's really hard for a lot of people to bounce back from it, especially, just kind of given, all the fame and accolades that can come with the Super Bowl, but not just that, but just the recognition of your effort and everything.
I would say, well, with those situations, those two teams in particular, I know about the hangover, but also the Rams unfortunately couldn't pay anyone because they had to pay off. Right. So they had to let go of like Ndamukong and Suh, and then that was huge for their D-line. And they had to pay a couple other players that couldn't get paid, so they went somewhere else. So that's one of the reasons. And the other is in Atlanta, it was injuries. They got killed in injuries that after the Super Bowl the next year, like in the first couple of games, their starting safety got hurt, and receivers got hurt. I know that it takes a toll on recovery. I'll tell you that. If you make it to the Super Bowl, regardless, win or loss, it's the recovery to come back after playing from August, maybe even more like July, like end of July, August, all the way to February is a long time for football players. For a body, that's crucial. Like, not crucial, but it hurts. It hurts the body. And, you got to make sure during the season you're taking care of your body. And, it's making sure you're able to get back. But for us, most teams that don't make the playoffs, like my team didn't make the playoffs when I was in the NFL. Like everyone was pretty fresh for the next year. Like, like you have a lot of time off because you're done in December. You're off until March or April. Yeah. So it's like, you got a lot of time. Like, like February, you got a 1 month turnaround. That's it. Yeah. And you're back on. So, it's tough because that, but I think that would definitely attest to the Super Bowl hangovers would be the lack of recovery time available at that point. I
never really kind of took recovery and stretching all that stuff seriously. And so I started to get more competitive with sports and athletics and talking to other athletes as well. And really just how important rest and recovery is not only for your body, but for your mind as well. Because when you're, especially as offensive lineman, I feel like is one of the hardest positions to learn for the playbook. Your brain is working tirelessly throughout a game, and it needs that rest to recuperate as well. Just like your body needs some time off to rest, so does your brain, I feel like.
Yes. No, I completely agree with that. As my one coach said in college, my offensive line coach said in college, your body's your money. And that includes your mind, obviously. Just getting away from the sport when you have to and like you could watch, I watch football a decent amount, but once I'm out of football, like if I'm just hanging out, I'm watching a movie, I'm watching TV, something less stressful, video games, like whatever. Nothing that's going to kill my mind, like to keep my mind away from it a little bit so you don't burn out, right? If you're football 24/7, 365, you're going to burn out quick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, from a mental standpoint, that would be for me, like getting away, like doing that stuff for me calms me down, or talking to my family, or just, talking to some of my friends, catching up with people who I don't usually catch up with.
Yeah.
For me, that's like a big thing for the mental aspect. From a body aspect, just all recovery, using the weight staff as much as I can to recover every week, like going in this morning and doing stretching and, going in the training room and doing treatments and stuff like that definitely helps.
Yeah. I think everything, I don't think there's a lot of things in life that you can do 24/7, 365 that, you can say optimal. I think there's an optimal range for everything, right? Almost like too much of everything is a bad thing. And you see it, all the time with athletes. And I think that's why athletes have such a hard time, in part due to, kind of staying off the field when they're injured, and they always kind of want to rush back, and, football is their life. Right. And that's all they kind of know. And they don't know how to take that step back and let their body and mind heal. So that's kind of one thing I always try and preach to athletes that I consult with and stuff at a more junior level is, enjoy the time off from the game, because it's that time off that lets your body and mind recover so you could perform 110% when you get back.
Correct. I completely agree. I think the coaching staff here is really good at DC about giving us off time now. And we're doing well. We're keeping the same schedule, like for us, like today we're off. We don't have anything. Tomorrow we have a little bit of we have a lift and we got some running and stuff we got to do. And then we got film, and then we're done at noon. Right. So that gives us a lot of time to get away.
Right.
Then Tuesday we're on practice. We're going from the morning till 5, or not 5 in the morning, but like 7 o'clock in the morning to 5 p.m. And then there's some breaks in between there, obviously, for like lunch, etc. But like Wednesday's a walkthrough day to give your body a rest and get to more of the mental aspect of the game for the coming up of the game that week. Thursday's a lighter practice, less like not play wise, but pad wise. Like you have like lacrosse spiders on, we call them.
Yeah.
They're more like lacrosse pads and like a helmet. And then Friday's a walkthrough. It's just, they try to give us a lot of time off, not a lot of time off, but a decent amount of time off to where we can definitely recover and make sure we can watch film our own and give us some rest time away from football sometimes. So
when you're watching film, obviously, because this is the first season of the XFL, there's not a lot of film on the teams themselves and their playbook, right? So are you just watching film of the guys back in, like when they were playing NFL or NCAA or CFL even?
So the first game when we played Seattle, yes. I had to go back and watch. We played them in the preseason, so we got to watch a little bit there in training camp. And the NFL, the XFL lets us access games from all the teams, right? So in the preseason, like if, for example, Dallas played St. Louis, right, in the preseason, like we can go back and watch that, right? So that's like from now, like after the first week, now everyone has film on everyone, right? So now we're fine. But like for Seattle, like we had to go back. I had to go back and look up a couple people's films to make sure, like the DN, like Mopongo and one of the other DNs, Praise Martin Aguique. I played with him in college, so it wasn't like I kind of knew him off the rip already, so it wasn't that bad. But some people you definitely have to go back and watch and see how they play, and are they more of a penetrator? Are they more of a guy who's going to read and try to get outside of you on an outside zone? Like, all the little small stuff like that, like really is huge in the game like that.
Yeah. The last thing I kind of wanted to touch on that I always find interesting with football athletes, and I love hearing their opinions on this, is when you come up against guys that, you line up against guys that you were with in college, like how you mentioned, where you're facing, DNs or maybe D tackles that you were teammates with in college. How do you kind of deal with that? There's a balance there, I guess, to a certain extent, or two sides pulling at each other, where this is somebody you knew and you spent years with in college compared to, this is somebody I need to, bust their ass right here.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yeah, it is kind of crazy. I unfortunately never got to play. My buddy, he was actually only playing the left side and I was on the right side. Yeah. So I never got to play him, but I got to see him at the game. But seeing people like in the game, you got to know, like, you want them to do well, but you don't want them to do well against you.
Right.
So that's how you got to play it. I guess exactly how I would say, like, I was happy my buddy Praise was doing well, but I also want my team to do well too. So at the end of the day, like, it's a little bit of selfish thing, but for me, like, Temple, like, that's our thing. Like, you know what I mean? I try to find Temple guys. I think there's a Temple guy on every team. Luckily, most of them play offense.
Yeah.
So I don't have to really play them.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. So, which is nice.
That is nice. Yeah.
But yeah, like, I would say, like, you hope they do well, but you hope at the same time you're doing well, I would say. Like,
yeah,
you got to, at the end of the day, you have to be above them.
Yeah, I kind of went through that something myself when I dabbled into boxing a bit, and me and my buddy did boxing together, and then we would just train together side by side and everything. And we got to a point in time where, we had to spar against each other. And he's he's probably about 2 or 3 weight classes below me, but I couldn't make that switch in my head of like, this isn't my friend anymore. This is the guy I got to punch in the face. And I just kind of like just froze up in the ring. Whereas he kind of took that,
Oh, he took the switch and went with it.
Yeah, he went with it and he kicked my ass. So that's just something that, I think as athletes, it's almost inevitable. And I think their mindset to get used to that kind of starts in high school, in college to a certain, especially college, because there's guys you might know from your high school or something. But it's just something always that I find interesting, just how real mental the game is and how much your mind can control what your body does.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is more of a mental aspect. If like I said before, like, if he does this and he does that, like, if I beat him on, like, for example, if I'm taking a pass set and I know this guy's a club rip guy, right? Like, okay, I know that. And I know if he doesn't get that right away, he'll start to go to a bull rush, or like he'll spin inside or something like that. Like, I know after watching a lot of film and seeing the mental aspect of the game, like, what he's thinking before he even thinks he's going to do it, which is a big thing of why I'm a big film guy. Like, I make sure I have everything done. I write down, I make notes of every player, like who I'm going to go against, like little, whatever notes, scouting notes, I guess you could say, like what he does with this, how he does, if he does this well, if he does this bad, like what can I take advantage of? Can I short set him? Do I have to be careful and not lean on my hands? Like, so
yeah, there's so much preparation. There's so much preparation into football. It's it's one of those weird games where, the play, I guess, isn't as like continuous, where a game like hockey and soccer, where it's kind of like continuous time is rolling, right? In football, you have these breaks in between plays, and it's almost like a game of chess in a way. And chess is such a mental game that it's really fascinating when you think about football players as just these big, athletic, strong guys. Not to say that they aren't, because you have to be that big, strong athletic to get to the league, but the mental side of it, I think, is so underestimated and so underappreciated. Just, again, like you mentioned, how much planning and scouting you're doing in the other guys, and just, every 1% advantage that you can get matters tenfold at the level that you're playing at.
Right. Exactly. It means a lot more. I mean, like my coach said the other day, like, they get paid like you get paid. They're professionals. So you guys got to do what you got to do. Yeah. But big mental game for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely football is.
Anyways, man, I know you guys are coming off a big win yesterday, and you're getting ready to play LA next coming weekend. So I won't take up too much of your time. Really appreciate you taking some time here, though, and kind of sharing a bit more about the mental side of the game, especially for an offensive lineman, where I think the mental game is even that much more important.